Hi everyone, Internet PCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about A Piece of Crow by George R.R. Martin, the fourth book in the Song of Ice and Fire saga after one of the best books in the series, A Storm of Swords. Usually in a long-term storytelling, after a big event like One Piece for example, going from Marineford arc to the Fishman Island arc, there's a quiet in the story, a lull after the big event, and this book also have that same energy at the start. It opened with a new POV from Iron Greyjoy, or Damper, the wet blanket as I call him, who received news about the death of his brother Balor Greyjoy, the ruler of the Iron Island, Theon's father. While the Iron Island is looking for a new lord, we go to another new POV, Irohota, the guard for Doran Martell. It is the continuation to Oberyn deaths during the duel for Tyrion Innocent in the previous book, and as you can imagine from these two chapters, this book explored part of the Westeros that we haven't explored previously. And a lot of the book is like this. It is exploring the consequences of the previous book's event, and at the same time also explores a bit more into other parts of the world that we've only saw glimpses of before, like the Iron Island and the Sunspear, the Dorne. We also got a lot more fresh new POV compared to any of the previous few books. And for the first time ever in the series, we got Cersei's POV, another major character. And through her, we explore more the right consequences of Tyrion's escape and patricide from the point of view of the Lioness of Lannister herself, followed immediately by the opposite of Cersei's, Brienne of Tarth, following her journey of looking for Sansa. Then Sam, who in the previous book have done more than a Craven will ever do. Sam will have to face his deepest fear, disappointing his father again to follow Jon's command and become a master, while Arya will meet the Faceless Man for the first time. While the story slowed down a little bit compared to the previous book, the writing of the POV is still amazing. There's always some segue that connected one POV to the next. For example, we have Arya killing a bird who abandoned the Black, then she woke up blind. Then we move to Sam losing Aegon Targaryen and break his oath by having sex with Gilly during a storm. Then we move to Cersei looking at the storm, and the story flows really smoothly from one to another, so instead of them fighting for a spotlight, they complement each other as the story progresses. Another good example on how the story complement each other is how Sansa and Arya's story still mirrors each other in this book. Each have to take another name and abandon their previous one, with Sansa becoming Alayne and Arya becoming Cat. And it is starting from this book that the show will differ drastically from the book, because in the last book, the show escalated the melodrama for each scene, so the series started to deviate from the human subtlety of the story. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, in this book there is a dip in the story because like 1,000 plot points are resolved in the previous book. Again, with the One Piece comparison, it's the part of the story where you need to renew every body level of the pirates. And I think the series writers are scared that this natural dip in the storytelling will cause a drop in the rating, so they made a lot of very dumb changes that I think only producers who are not in the know on how to tell a good story tends to do. All the changes are so dumb, I really think it can only be done by the marketing team barging in after the rating got really high from the previous book adaptation. Like, thank you boys, but now let the adults handle this. Trust us, we know how to make money, we're marketing, lol. This conversation it is advanced by characters, boring, scrap them. New characters, nah, too much effort to follow, scrap them. And as a result, the writing on the show got worse and worse. If they had more faith in the source material, this book is actually really well written. There's almost no wasted word in the entire book, but there's no POV of Jon Snow, Daenerys, or Tyrion who are fan favorite characters, so they scrambled to skip a lot of these parts, and basically every character is victim of this treatment, including the major characters. A lot of Brienne's journey to save Sansa was skipped, and as a result of this, not only a lot of her character's growth are missing from the story, but the world building that come from her journey are also lost. They omitted so much of Brienne in the show that they made her into basically just a side character. She become like Sid from Final Fantasy VII. He's just there in the background while the main character are doing their thing. While in the book, Brienne's journey fleshes out not only her, but also the world of Westeros, especially for the lower classes. All this Game of Thrones and Clash of Kings made their world into hell, and Brienne's oath to find Sansa led her directly to their path. She actually has the second most POV after Cersei, even Jaime has less POV than her in this book. Sam's character arc in the show finished earlier than it should, with him killing the other with a dragon knife. After that, the character in the show mostly stopped making any internal progress. Well, in the book, it's very clear that it's a huge coincidence and doesn't make Sam less of a pacifist. Same as Brienne of Tarth, Sam also lost his character growth and the world building that comes from his hardest journey yet, going to face his childhood trauma and trying to convince his family that looks down on him for being a pacifist. Then small changes like Asha Greyjoy that was changed to Yara Greyjoy in the show not only have her name taken from her because the producers are afraid people can tell the difference between Osha and Asha despite both of them being very different characters. They really went two female characters that can do combat with similar names. How can we tell the difference? Change them. But worse, they omit Victorian Greyjoy's existence and his involvement with the power struggle at Iron Island, thus robbing not only a few details of the character of Asha Greyjoy because Victorian is her uncle, but also the world politics. Victorian Greyjoy will also play a larger part in the story later on, so I don't know why they omit him. And speaking of missing characters, they deleted so much from this book, because we only got the Cliff Note version of Brienne and the Hound. Lady Stoneheart, the resurrected zombie of Catelyn Stark, are nowhere to be seen on the show. And they strike out route of most of Dorne's politics when they skip Mariana Martel, one of the most interesting POV characters that, while having only a small participation in the book, seems to be written to be a mirror element of Cersei, a potential ruler in Westeros that actually care about others and can take people's advice. Meanwhile, Cersei is so paranoid and insecure despite not knowing enough of what she's doing. She refused to listen to reason because she's riding high, I guess, on the dumb mountain of Dunning-Kruger. She has a lot of wit, don't get me wrong, but those wits only make her an arrogant fool with witty remarks. Every counsel and criticism is taken as a coup against her. This book is the first Cersei POV, and right after Cersei just lost Joffrey to what she suspects is Tyrion's doing, she then lost Tywin, which is actually Tyrion's doing. And I think the author portrays her insecurities very well. She takes everything very personally. Her paranoia makes her more insane and unpredictable and makes her a character that is as scary as she is sympathetic. Add that with her narcissism, where she looks down on everyone but herself, makes her not trust anyone, not even Jaime, and she don't know at all about what she's doing, whether politically or anything. When Tyrion was the Hand, people don't trust him, but at least he kinda know what he's doing. But Cersei mostly just bluff her way forward with her poker face. There's even a scene where Cersei was trying to talk politics with the Septons. She didn't even want to kneel at the holy house just for show because she didn't want to get her dress dirty. And when asked about certain political figures she never heard of, she just bluffed yes and move on. I've mentioned in my previous Game of Thrones video that they make the writing and the character more melodramatic, and Cersei I think is the worst victim of this treatment. The show tried to make Cersei more redeemable, let's say, by making her show some kindness, I guess. But it makes her existence looks off because how they want to portray her and her action don't actually match. It's because her book version is already well fleshed as the woman who raised Joffrey to become an incel. Her show version become half-assed as a result of this and ends up like a Disney remake villain. Cersei is scary because she's a person who's gone mad from narcissism and paranoia. She's basically gender-bender Cincy Huang in the story of Game of Thrones. There is a very good and valid reason why Jaime, who started to find his independence, turned his back on Cersei at the end of the book, just like how everyone should cut off the people that are most toxic to them. While all the previous volumes have changes on them when we compare the books and the show, but they're almost never as bad as this volume. I don't think they got even half of what the book offered. It doesn't help that this book is actually only half the story. The other half that tells the story of the other cast of characters that we're already familiar with is on the sequel, Dance with Dragons. The part they cut off in this book is almost as bad if, for example, on Attack on Titan, if we cut off the part where they're telling the story from Gaby's perspective. Or if you just cut off Vinland Saga Season 2 because there's almost no fight in it. It's a very corporate thing to do, skipping to only the good part because they don't want to risk losing money. Honestly, even if you watch the show and like it and the portrayal of the characters there, I still recommend this book because it definitely deserves some love that it didn't get from its adaptation. As I mentioned at the start, it's a bit slow compared to the previous volume where a lot of plot points are resolved, but here you get to see a lot of things satisfyingly being set up in this book. I give this a 4.25. What do you think? Are you gonna read it? Did I miss anything? Leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it.